Tony Blair arrived at Parliament this morning to explain his relationship with Colonel Gaddafi. The House of Commons Foreign Affairs Committee heard evidence from the former Prime Minister, who maintained that his negotiations were necessary to get rid of Libya's nuclear and chemical weapons, the benefit of which he says can be seen today.
The bigger danger would have been that stockpile falling into the hands of various extremist groups, which obviously have proliferated in Libya.
Blair met Gaddafi in 2004 after Libya renounced weapons of mass destruction. 3 years later, a meeting between the two leaders progressed the integration of Libya into the international community after years of sanctions. In 2011, Blair encouraged Gaddafi to stand aside. Rebels overran Tripoli that same year, and Gaddafi was killed 2 months later. Blair admitted phoning the Libyan leader 2 or 3 times in one day, shortly before the regime fell. He was no longer Prime Minister and had to clear the calls with David Cameron, who had taken up the position.
It's been presented as if I was trying to save Gaddafi. I wasn't trying to save Gaddafi. My concern was not for his safety. My concern was to get him out of the situation so that a peaceful transition could take place.
Gaddafi was accused of sponsoring terrorism in the 1980s and blamed for the Lockerbie bombing and death of police officer Yvonne Fletcher. These incidents were raised during Blair's appearance, and he insisted they were not left to one side for the sake of diplomatic relations.
Yvonne Fletcher was murdered in 1984. Compensation was secured under my government. Lockerbie happened in 1988. Compensation was secured under my government. So we didn't lay these issues aside.
Blair refused to criticise David Cameron's decision to take military action against Gaddafi, which resulted in airstrikes against the regime in 2011. He said he'd had to make those types of decisions himself.